We are in the curriculum, co-curricular athletics, and pupil personnel meeting for the month of September. I want to start by congratulating the entire administrative staff for a smooth start to the year. I've only heard great things, and I want to wish you all good luck for the rest of the year. We have a packed agenda with almost 16, 17, definitely curriculum documents and a few other agenda items. So without much ado, I'm going to ask Dr. Roselle to take over for.
All right, and 7 of those are mine, so
Yes.
I will be concise. I'm going to start with the 2 world language documents that I have. The first is grade 6 Spanish. This update was necessitated both by new world language standards as well as an adjustment to the middle school schedule, which has 1 marking period of Spanish for students in grade 6. The document is aligned to the 2020 World Language Standards. Those are the most updated. It provides continued exposure to Spanish language and culture for students in grade 6. It serves as a bridge between our elementary program and grade 7, where students do have Spanish, Italian, or French every day. And the focus is basic vocabulary and understanding of the value of studying a second language. The next world language document I have.
Dr. Roselle, can I interrupt you for a second? So grade 6 has 1 marking period of Spanish still. I thought with the, the new curriculum, we did not have that, but we still have 1 marking.
We have 1 marking period, yes.
Which one is that? Is it going to?
It's on a cycle,
On
so
a cycle.
some students will have it first marking period, second, third, fourth, yes.
Okay, I might have missed that, but.
So it went from, it was PBL half year, world language half year, alternating that way, and now it is on the cycle.
Okay.
But 7th grade went from half a year to a full year in those changes.
So 7th grade has gone to a full year.
Yes.
But the 6th grade is going to be on a cycle, but that's 2 rotations only. One is the literacy, the new curriculum that we've put in place. No?
No.
Yeah.
What am I confusing this with?
All
all the other cycles.
All the other cycles.
Oh,
Yeah,
all the other cycles
I can only
in
speak for
Spanish.
world
Oh,
language.
there's
One
about
of the
6 or 7
cycles.
of them, right, in the cycles?
There's a handful on the cycle wheel.
Okay, so it's an option for the students to choose?
No,
Nope. In 6th grade, they go through an exposure cycle.
And how long is that period for every cycle?
1 marking period.
Okay, so 4.
Yeah.
That's it, for every student, that
Yep.
they could,
And they
so
all cycle through.
all students that are doing the cycles will get Spanish?
Yep. And
Okay,
that's consistent with our elementary program where all students are exposed to world language and culture. Starting in 7th grade now is where they have their official world language beginning of the
Right,
program, right?
right.
Those 7th and 8th grade years equate to a potential Spanish 1,
Right.
Italian 1, French 1, leading into high school.
okay. So I think it's been a while since a kid of mine was in 6th grade. Cycles is for students that don't do music. Is that right? That don't do chorus or band?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Snyder.
The cycle is for chorus only, so it's either
If
they
you're
do the
doing
cycle
chorus, you don't.
or they do
okay.
cycle. Band is a
Zero
totally
percent.
separate entity, yeah.
Okay,
right.
Gotcha.
And if a student is in chorus and they would like to take world Spanish, world cultures, they can schedule that. They reach out to the building and they can have that Spanish world cultures exposure in lieu of the 1 marking period of course.
And then just for the people who are listening in, what other top subjects are there in the cycles, just for people's knowledge? Because I know that all 6th grade students go through cycles unless they're in chorus. And what others, and there are 4 marking periods, so they'll go through 4 different topics.
Yep.
Is that right?
You want to highlight? A lot of them would tend to be in Mr. Monroe.
Sure, so it's a blend of performing arts and practical arts. We had traditional industrial arts or wood shop for a cycle. We also had general music for a cycle. Help me out here. As far as the other cycles,
They have, media,
is media, to be honest with you, I don't know what cycles the middle school offers other than the industrial arts, practical arts cycle.
And this is the
And
first,
new clicks.
it's the first time you'll be offering world language as a cycle.
Right.
Otherwise, it used to be a mix of all kinds of a variety, like electives sort of.
It's an exposure to things that they could potentially take as electives in 7th and 8th grade.
Okay.
We are still running wood shop though as a 6th grade cycle.
Okay.
Yep.
Which is something that we have codified through, our recommitment to the pre-vocational programs.
Where can parents find this information? Because we just briefly discussed it and if people want to look it up.
Yep, the middle school on their website, they have, a nice outline of the program of studies, but we also, if they want to reach out to Dr. Higgins to get
Okay.
an exact schedule, it's also printed on their individual student schedules, what classes are going to, what marking period and things like that.
I apologize for the interruption, but I did want, because all of us thought that it was just going away from sixth grade Spanish. So if it's coming in as a cycle, that's a little addition to what was expected.
Yeah,
So-
we did have a conversation about what happens if someone's in chorus. It happened at one of the board meetings, I think. and
Yes,
We
it did.
talked about,
Chorus would miss, you're right, that's
Right.
the reason chorus would miss and
so
nobody
it's on
else.
the wheel, right? And chorus would miss. And, Dr. Higgins made it very clear that if a parent or a student was interested in still maintaining that Spanish world cultures connection, they could certainly flip out for a marking period and flip back in.
Okay, sounds good. Anybody else, any questions on that? Thank you, Dr. Rosa. Okay.
No problem. So the next, as I started to say, another end of the spectrum is Honors Latin 3. This course has 9 units, aligned again to the 2020 standards. It's written at the intermediate mid and intermediate high proficiency levels, which is a little bit higher than a level 3 would typically be written. And that is to be able to bridge students to go into AP Latin in their senior year. So Honors Latin 3 is the course that they would take prior. So Dr. Mearson was cognizant of that in developing the curriculum. The AP exam and the ALIRA are all students would need intermediate proficiency across the board to perform well. So he's written into the intermediate, mid, and intermediate high to ensure access. There is a focus upon history, reading, linguistics. Translation is a huge part of any Latin course. Significant class discussion, group work, paired activities. And the skills in this course also position students for the seal of biliteracy. Students would take the ALIRA, which is a reading test in Latin, to earn the seal of biliteracy in Latin.
So does ALIRA have a prereq of getting the Honors Latin 3 or?
Nope, so anyone can take the ALIRA. So for the seal of biliteracy, and this is a point of clarification, I don't want to take too much time. Students do not need to be enrolled in a language course
In the
to take the seal of biliteracy, to pursue the seal of biliteracy. It can be in a heritage language, it can be in a language that was studied outside of school, a native language as well.
And we only offer Honors Latin 3 to juniors and older, right?
Yes. Because Latin does not start until the high school, so Latin 1 for freshmen, Latin 2 for sophomores, Latin 3 honors for juniors. We currently have Latin 4, but we think that the AP is really going to supplant that. Most students are going into the AP level course.
Did we, because I know I went through this as a parent,
Yep.
and so I come with that background. Do we always offer Latin 4? No, right? It depends on
No, it
enrollment.
depends on enrollment, and I do think the AP Latin, that is a new course this year. I do believe that will siphon off most of the students who would have taken the honors.
Yes, and I was excited to see that my kids enrolled in that. So
Absolutely.
one kid missed on Latin 4 because there was no, I hear Latin, AP Latin has enough enrollment.
Yes, because it's one of those singleton courses, which sometimes as we go through the scheduling process, there might just be 1 or 2 students left in a class.
Thank you.
Can I highlight?
Any questions? Yes, Dr.
Thank you. How do you determine inclusion into that honors program, honors Latin?
Latin, so we have open access. Students will work with their case managers. So any student who has an IEP, and Ms. Arcaro can speak to this as well, can work with their case manager. And any student can access these courses. If they were to choose to take Latin, we would work with the teacher, make sure that that IEP was fully implemented and students had access to that class. We offer resource room Spanish, and we offer ICR for students whose IEP really suggests that that is the best language learning environment for them.
But obviously, in an honors program, to be Latin, you have the prerequisites. And there are kids who are gonna move from one to the other, and they're gonna self-select is what I'm hearing.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So how do you determine success in a program like that? I mean, these are kids who normally are going to self-select. And given that, when they self-select, for the most part, they're gonna go into that program because it's something they really want to do. But what happens to those extra kids who go into a program and it might be too much for them? I mean, I took a look and looked at, I mean, the curriculum is superb. Absolutely outstanding. There are some elements there, I can't say enough good things about the honors program and what you're offering. It's right on target. So, but I'm always concerned about that kid who gets into the program, not gonna have success, and how that's gonna affect his or her self-esteem.
So at the high school, this particular course is the third course in the program. So level 3, really is optional. The state requires 1 year of world language. Locally, we require 10 credits, as most high schools do. So the students who are enrolling in this class have already satisfied their graduation requirement for this. We do a lot of work on the front end, coordinating with 8th grade students, really beginning in January. Between the 8th grade orientations, Dr. Mearson actually goes down in person to meet with students because they may not know what Latin is. So he does a really good job of, here's what a sample lesson looks like. Here is why you might want to take Latin as opposed to a traditional second language, like Italian or French or Spanish. We always work with students. We have really a 2-week kind of drop add period too, where if the student was in that level 1 or that level 2 and they're not sure that they made the right choice, that we can help them with that choice. But as far as getting to this level and not really feeling like it's for them, I don't think that happens, because they have already had 2 years of it. They've had 2 years of it with the same teacher. And if they do get to this level and they decide it's not for them, like the first week of school, they have the opportunity to drop it.
Yes.
What they can't do is decide in February that they want to drop it, in which case we work together on a plan to make sure the student is successful in the course.
How many students currently are in that program?
I'm gonna ask, because I need to go into Genesis to get that number, so I'm gonna get that number to you at the end of the
Yes,
meeting, if
that's
that's
perfect.
okay, so I
Thank
can
you.
get to the others, or I'll email it to Dr. Lehman, who can.
And I'll add a comment that it's only gotten more and more popular. I feel like Dr. Mearson
Yes,
has brought so much value to this program. I've seen it personally in the last 2
You've actually
years.
seen an increase. in
yes,
enrollment.
Latin has absolutely, increased developing the AP courses.
It's,
Then you've answered my question. Thank you.
Oh,
and it's not just the language. He brings so much culture and history, and I feel like he's taken it to a whole other level.
Absolutely,
So the
Really appreciate
curriculum
his heart.
Certainly shows that.
yes,
I must tell you, very, very complete.
yes, he's done a wonderful job.
Can I cycle back to 6th grade real quick?
Yeah, sure.
So just for reference, if someone's looking for information on the cycles, it's 6th grade orientation. There's an entire Google slide presentation all about being a 6th grader. So in addition to being on their schedule by marking period, it has computers, general music, world language, and industrial arts. That's what we talked, that we hit all 4 of those courses here, but just for, reclarification, it's slide 16 on the PowerPoint.
15,
16.
slide 16 on the 6th grade orientation.
And
Thank you.
it's other information about being a 6th grader.
Okay, thank you very much.
Right, I'm now going to move into the 3 language arts courses I have. We have grade 7 advanced ELA. Students are selected, as the committee knows, based upon multiple criteria. For this course, students cannot self-select the advanced course. There are 5 units with a 6-year-long unit, which is portfolio development, that underpins those other 5 units. Really working to have high interest units balancing contemporary texts with more classic literature, such as The Alchemist and Frankenstein. We're also leveraging different mediums. So students are not just in text, we're listening to podcasts, we're producing podcasts, TED Talks, and how to not only write to communicate, but really leaning into those oral communication skills as well. Grade 8, very similar in its development. 5 units with a 6th unit portfolio development that underpins the year. 8th grade actually has my favorite unit, which is it opens with a unit on intellectual freedom and an examination of censorship, book banning. Banned Books Week is next week. All in the context of the First Amendment. So students are looking at these historical documents. They're looking at the role from a civics lens and what does it mean to really protect that First Amendment right, looking at Supreme Court cases. And this is very contemporary as well for students to learn.
You're talking about the 8th grade?
Yes.
That's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And did you say the 7th graders were at the Alchemist?
7th graders are reading The Alchemist, yes.
Mind-blowing again.
Yes, absolutely. And then students, again, 8th grade, we wanted to get some Shakespeare in there. So they're going to read Othello because we have Romeo and Juliet at the high school. We have Macbeth at the high school. So we're doing Othello, one of the tragic works, but really looking at Shakespeare also from the lens of how many times it is alluded to in pop culture, it's alluded to in music, it's alluded to in more contemporary texts that students read as well. And then finally, students explore a historical event or an important idea and present an oral history. So interviewing other people, something that they may have lived through, and there's a variety of ways in which students can present that information. Any questions about 7th or 8th advanced ELA?
Just one. Once you get into the program in 6th grade for the advanced ELA, are you tested again or do you just move up?
You are not tested again. The only thing we do look at is to make sure students are performing to expectations.
Okay.
And so far, we have not had any students identified who are not performing to expectations, but we do look at that. And just again, for the community, we do look at student data in the spring of students 6th grade and the spring of 7th grade, and additional students may be identified based on that
Okay.
criteria.
That was my next question.
Communication about that does go out in February. So, you know, and anyone can reach out to me with questions in that regard as well.
And I want to comment that what's different about this is in school. They're pulled out of regular ELA
Correct.
and they do advanced ELA.
Correct.
So they're not staying back after school for this, which is the
Yes,
biggest.
this is, and the identification criteria follows the NJDOE guidance, for gifted programs and looking at local norms, which is why our criteria is pretty strict because we have a high performing student body. So really looking at that top 2 to 5% of students.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next is AP Language and Composition, one of my favorite courses. Really, AP Language and Composition focuses on an analysis of the written word and how our words have power and how arguments are presented, how evidence and the order in which evidence is presented really can make a case. So just to give you an idea, one of the 2024 AP exam essay prompts was write an essay that synthesizes material from at least 3 of the 6 sources and develops your position on the value, if any, of laws designed to preserve building deemed to be of historic importance. So again, it's topical. Students may have absolutely no interest in that whatsoever, but there are 6 sources presented to students. They have 55 minutes to read through all 6 sources and to present that argument. So the coursework that they do during the year is leading up to that.
What is the prereq for that class, Dr. Roselle?
So the prereq for that is a 90 or higher in language, or the recommendation.
Okay.
So I don't want to say a prerequisite, but the recommendation is a 90 or higher in
Language arts too?
yes, language arts 2, or an
Honors?
80 or higher, or in honors.
Okay, so
Okay.
they could take it as a sophomore? No, they would take it as a junior
Yes,
only?
it's a junior level course. So, and it does not matter if students, we offer pre-AP 1, pre-AP 2, but students can, you know, go into the AP Lang and Comp, you know, coming from any of those courses.
That was one of my questions. How does this one differentiate from AP1 and AP.
Okay, so pre-AP 1 and
Pre-AP.
pre-AP 2 are really taking a look at what is it that students are going to need to do in across AP courses, but particularly in language and composition and literature and composition, and try to back up to some of those prerequisite skills. So I remember one time I did an observation and they spent 30 minutes discussing one word that a writer used and how does the entire meaning of this text change if we swap out that one word. So little things like that. That was a pre-AP 2 class. So they're doing the close reading, building vocabulary, and those analysis skills to really give a level of access to this class as well. Literary nonfiction is the focus, but there is also fiction included as well. But unlike the fiction focus is in the next course in the series, which is literature and composition.
Okay.
Any questions about AP Lang and Com?
Yes, go ahead.
I just like to, I take all these notes about what I read, and I just want to tell you, basically, and everyone here, that I put everything together, all of it, because I thought they were so interrelated in terms of how the curriculum was written, because you're using that, higher order thinking skills, the taxonomy, the reading and year-long reading and writing portfolios, the differentiate using, again, interpret, compare, and contrast. We deal with relationships, analyze, your podcast, passion project. I love that. Writing arguments, you write based on certain arguments, and that's absolutely unbelievably clear for kids. They love doing things like that. Supporting claims, social issues, essential questions, public speaking, Shakespeare's Othello, your cross-curricular real-world application, the research component, the key vocabulary words, the differentiated, the authors, Bradbury, and emphasizing writing style. And those are just some of the things, I just wanted to mention what I got out of it and how wonderful it is for kids to have that kind of experience. Who wrote the curriculum, if I may ask?
Which specific curriculum document?
Yeah.
Because that was a bit of an amalgamation of the last three that I did.
Yes. It was.
So grade 7 was written by Ms. Danielle Samet. She teaches the course. Grade 8 was written by Ms. Samet and Giovanna Marcini. She did just change her name. She got married, but I'm going to say Marcini because that's what I know right now. And AP Language and Composition was written by Mrs. Sam Guerra, who has been teaching the course. Last year was actually her first year teaching the course. She did phenomenally. She has 4 sections of it this year.
Well, let me first compliment you because you're the supervisor of the program on what they did, and also please extend to me, to them, from me. I think they did just a marvelous job on that.
Thank you.
It's really outstanding. So I think that had to be said.
Here's me another follow-up question. When they're writing a curriculum for an AP class, I know they've got to feed off the College Board, and this is for all supplies. What is it that we add? What value do our curriculum writers add to that at that point?
So I'll speak for the language arts, but it's very similar for the other content areas, is that they are giving us a framework. But the specific text that we use, there's some recommended text, but the text that we use, the sequence in which we use them, how we are specifically teaching those skills, the instructional strategies, the means by which we differentiate instruction, any electronic sources or things like that, those are all local decisions.
So it's like a roadmap versus a framework that you're
Yes.
getting from College Board?
Yes, so each year we have to certify that we are following, the AP syllabus and the units that are laid out and that we will prepare students for the exam. But in writing the course, they obviously align to the syllabus, but all of those nuanced pieces are the work of our writers.
Thank you.
And if you don't mind, I could just interject too. One of the big things with our curriculum documents is, remember, it's a tool for the teachers. So the learning plan is a big piece of that. So that is where it gives them suggestions of how to teach them, what to focus on, maybe what type of examples to practice. The parents and the community don't have access to that part of it. They have access to stage one, because it does give a lot of very detailed suggestions of possibly assignments to give or assessments to give, things like that. So I always tell the teachers when you're writing this, try to write it as if somebody who's brand new to the course could follow this if they didn't have another person such as the writer to guide them by. So it's really much more detailed than the framework that College Board gives us.
Good to know. Thank you.
All right, my last two are K-2 media literacy and 3 to 5 media literacy. I'm going to speak about them together because these skills spiral from kindergarten through grade 5. Both of them contain a unit with the infrastructure of the library. And for kindergarten, that is, here's where we do story time. And, you know, here's how we take care of books, and here is how we have quiet feet when we're walking through the shelves, up to 5th grade, where these are the databases that are available to you to conduct research. And then there are 4 units in K-2: ethics, literature, technology, and research. Even our little first graders are conducting research with databases. They're doing an all about research project on a favorite animal and things like that. Strong connections in the media literacy program between the New Jersey Student Learning Standards for Language Arts, the Career Readiness, Life Literacy, and Key Skills, as well as social emotional learning. So for each month, our book displays, the read alouds that we do with students, as well as the maker activities and our maker spaces. All of these things really come together and are interdisciplinary and support the work that we're doing in our classrooms as well.
I definitely had a question about this aspect. It's we have 6 schools that are like different infrastructures that we're talking about in this program, right? And a lot depends on especially the makerspace part of it, right? Every school has a different setup.
Yeah.
And I know from my background, I know it was years ago, it was different for every school. So do we have an equitable makerspace in all 6 schools? Like, does Brookside compare to Woodland compare to Applegard in terms of their makerspace, as in, do the kids get equal opportunity no matter which upper elementary they're in? Or is it still dependent on donations and PTA work? And do we know what programs, what drives the program? Is it what facilities are there, or what's in the curriculum and we're going to make it happen?
So I'm going to speak to equity in terms of access to materials is consistent across the schools.
It's consistent.
It is consistent across the schools, and that is something we worked for. I believe it was Mill Lake was the last school that we ordered 3D printers for, so that they had access to those 3D printers in their makerspace as well. But there are 3D printers, there are coding tools, and those coding tools look different. They're little codapillars for the kindergarten students and first grade students, but they're the Ozobots for others. These are pre-computer science skills. We don't teach, really high level algorithms to our babies, but these are the key understandings that they get through play that will underpin the work that they will have in high school. There is equitable access to materials. Other things will depend on schedules and things like that. But even our classroom teachers and things like that, they're getting into the makerspace.
Yeah, but what you said is exactly what I wanted to hear. So back in the days, not every school had the Ozobots, but you're saying all these schools had equitable amount of technology and equipment that's needed for creating snap circuits or creating Ozobots or
and that's
3D printers
through the budgeting process, even through the databases. I really work to make sure that that everybody has access to the same things.
That's great. I'm so happy to hear that. And how are we dividing it between technology and real books, like real books that read? Because I know it's all part of the same curriculum, right? Getting to do the coding, whatever, Ozobots or whatever, or sitting down in circle and reading a book. So is it still 50-50 or?
I wouldn't be able to put a percentage on it. I'm going to be perfectly honest, because what we try to do is There are students who are interested in what they're reading, and that's going to spark them to want to make something. And there are students who are more of those kinesthetic learners that through that making, that might get them into a book. And the media specialists are really the experts in that area of how they're going to marry those two things together. But for example, when we were doing the solar eclipse, there were some schools who were demonstrating, you know, how this solar eclipse is, because students were making a model of what a solar eclipse looks like, and different things like that. So it's not always just what's in the curriculum, but what might be topical at the
Who's
time.
learning and who's teaching it?
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions on that? You guys have kids you have kids in that age group right now. There's so much, it's interesting, like the way we can open their minds just through that curriculum. It's not like science and maths and reading. It's just something that keeps them all in that 1 hour, not even an hour, 30, 40 minutes, whatever they have. But thank you for touching on that.
Absolutely. That's all I have.
Ms. Gasco, all yours.
Okay, I have 3 documents and they're kind of an assortment of different grades and different things. So I'm just going to give you kind of a quick overview of one of the reasons that we're redoing some of these. The standards were just updated in 2023. They were implemented starting in 2024. They're still calling it the 2023 standards. So I've got an Algebra 1 and an Honors Algebra 2 that are fitting into the high school one. And then I've got grade 2 as well that we made some changes to because it didn't have the new standards, and we're going to be having the state audit coming in. So we wanted to make sure that we had a showcase of an elementary that we could really go through and make sure it was totally completely updated. Things that were added that have been added in the last couple of years in addition to the 2023 math standards. Cross-curricular, there would be 2023 language arts standards as well. Those are the only 2 that have the new ones in terms of just this year. The 2020 career readiness, life literacies, and key skills are considered a cross-curricular. That's got critical thinking, problem solving, digital citizenship in it. Those are all things that you can incorporate into math. 2020 computer science and design thinking is still cross-curricular, more on the thinking process, not that you're actually programming and doing things, but if you think about what programming is, it is a step-by-step process, and that's really a mathematical process. We can always use New Jersey science and engineering practices because when you're doing application problems, you're usually bringing in the world events, and a lot of times it turns out to be the science aspect to them. So we've also, the last 2 years, we've added in vocabulary, academic vocabulary. Tier 2 and Tier 3 are words. Tier 2 are ones that it's going to be academic vocabulary that's used across content areas, where the Tier 3 is going to be very specific to that content. In math, probably a lot of the words you hear about are more specific to the content than not, but we have some words that are kind of overarching going through. The differentiation section, we make sure that there's the assessments, modifications, accommodations, instructional strategies, some basic things. Again, as I said beforehand, I want my document to be a go-to, that if somebody is brand new to it, even if they've taught in the building beforehand, but I have teachers that have moved from the middle school to the high school, or people that change different subject areas. I want them to have that comfort zone of just having it something they can go to. I've really had them increase the technology resources several years ago, and keep in mind these were updated about 6-7 years ago. They might say you can use Khan Academy, you can use Desmos. I've said find at least one thing per unit that's a very specific go-to. Desmos has some phenomenal type of activities that we don't have to make ourselves. They are actually created by teachers, and we actually had Desmos come in to show some of our teachers things. Khan Academy is the same idea. There's some very specific, if a student has been out sick or they need another resource, you could possibly watch this resource on it. It's free. It's a little dry, but it's still free, and it's another resource that's out there in case they happen to not be there for the instruction. And just in general, we've had some specific things with that. I have included in each one of mine now, not that I ever want to go back to what we went through in 2020, but in the case there's ever a remote situation, these are go-tos, because my hope is it never happens again, but if it does, maybe those of us that went through it are so long gone that we are back at square one, and we struggled that. We really did as to what we could do. So it's just activities going through. I feel like we're in a much better place technology-wise, just even the things that we use with the high school, with Schoology or Google Classroom at the lower levels, we've got a much better comfort zone. In the mandates now, there's 21st century skills, obviously, that we've always included. A big change from math in the 2023 is climate change. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples of it through. It's a mandate that have to be covered through, but the standards have really addressed that in math of exactly what you could use and where you could use it. And it's not about whether you agree or disagree with something. It's just ideas of how you can incorporate just the environment into some of your problems. And then the lesson planning section, I'm having them make much greater detail than they had beforehand. Just to give you an idea of some of the climate change, like so for high school algebra, these are coming from the state. So this is from the state standards. They say students may create equations or inequalities to represent the economic impact of climate change. They may be describing the economic change by equations, inequalities, or systems of equations to interpret solutions or deciding, basically what's happening. It's again, bringing in the science, almost more like an environmental science aspect to it. We tend to focus on the physics, the chemistry, sometimes biology here and there, but this is really just bringing in more environmental science.
So interesting. Is this in algebra 2 or is this across
So it's
the
across
2023?
So one of the things you'll see when I go over both of them is that there is a continuation of algebra 1 into algebra 2. Algebra 2 becomes much harder and much more complex types of equations. The gist of algebra is solving equations and solving functions. All right, so that's kind of the overhaul of the whole overarching idea, and to be used down the road at later type of courses such as calculus, probability and statistics, any of those type of courses. So it can be incorporated at any level of type of equation that they've had, whether it be more a single, a one-step equation, a systems of equations, or one that's a trigonometry equation. It's the same overarching
The same concept can
So
be.
they didn't give specific examples to use. They said these are the type of how you can do them going through. Functions, it's the same idea going through, and it just gives you ideas that we put in. So the algebra 1, this is the regular college level algebra 1 that we've had updated. Again, it was much more detailed in terms of the learning plan for the teachers, incorporated the new standards, and it just gave kind of an overhaul. It's the basics of algebra, operations with integers, solving equations with word problems. Application is very, very key on the algebras that we do. When we pick our textbook as our resource, that is one of the main things that we look for. We don't want just drill and skill. We want it to be an understanding of how you can apply it. There's graphing equations and inequalities. Family of functions is a be all end all where you have absolute values. You have, I'm trying to think of some of the other things, all different types of equations. It might be quadratics, equations, rational algebraic expressions, systems of equations, quadratics and polynomials. It really does the overhaul of everything. There is a very small portion of the statistics, very tiny at the end, and that's usually done more after we're done with the state testing and things like that going through. If it's okay, I was going to go on to the algebra 2 and then group those together, or do you?
Right, I just have one question. So while we did talk about the 2023 standards, the curriculum document for algebra 1 is still based on the 2020 standards, from what I'm seeing.
No, the algebra, okay, so I
Of the
think,
3 documents, I only saw 2023 standards mentioned in honors algebra 2.
okay,
So the other 2, the grade 2 math and the algebra 1 still seems to be aligned.
so the algebra 1, I think the one that got sent initially was one that we started working on, and there was an issue with the teacher of what they could work on, and Mr. Silverman had opened up a different document. So I know it's uploaded now.
So you're saying what I'm looking at may be wrong, and you.
I think it was sent incorrectly, the first one. The
Okay.
way it's listed right now until we get approved, I had one that was called Algebra 1. It was listed as part 2, not part 2, but point 2, and 1.3. We had to get it set up correctly so that the teacher could see the overview of what was in the past and what was in the beginning and what needed to be changed going through.
But
It hadn't been
they're all
set up.
2023 now?
It's
That's all.
all 2023. If you see 2020, it should be the career readiness, it should be the technology.
Okay,
Math in the past was 2016. So
so yeah, there
it
was
won't
definitely
say
something with your
2020
passions.
math. It won't say 2020 math. The math ones will be 2023 after.
Okay,
So I'd have to see what you're looking at to know. I don't get a copy of what you're sent through. I do know the one, when Ms. Chase started it, she started with the career readiness and the technology ones, and the math was at the bottom part of it, so it was still there.
yeah, I think what we got the very first stage one where it says the standard.
The very first one wouldn't have been a complete document. If you went into some of the later pieces, there would have been,
So this
So
one.
the one that's there now starts with 2020 computer science.
right.
Then it goes down to career, cross-curricular, which is 2020 SLS, and then down
Okay, the
on
computer science,
page
yes,
12
right.
is 2023 English Language Arts Connections. And I'm
She
just
put the
going.
cross-curricular and then the math. So it's just a matter
Yeah,
of
I'm just
the
not done with
order.
the math ones.
Okay.
The ma- I think
So
the math
maybe
ones-
scroll
The
down.
math, when I scroll through, the math ones were 2023. Again, the only two that are going to be 2023 will be language arts and math. Nothing else had an update last year / this year. 2020 was the newest one for the other ones.
That's all right.
Do you want me to go on?
So the one that's there is
So, but
2023 math.
we've, all our documents tonight for maths are 2023 standard.
2023 for math.
For maths, yes.
And the
not for computer science.
cross-curricular, which we have to include, would be 2020.
Okay,
If you had seen 2016, then the standards wouldn't have been updated. So math, the last math one was 2016.
So this, the one that's in there is 2023 math, 2023 language arts, 2020
okay.
cross-curricular,
I think
2020.
it's confusing because you didn't put the math first.
Right. The math.
They
is-
have their own way of that, but the standards are still
Yeah,
there.
that's what it was. And by the time I start scrolling down, the numbers start to mix up. In the top, I can
Some-
still see.
This is right.
Totally excited.
And I have to take,
All the things they can include that I try to say, you don't have to include every single language arts standard that.
No,
math
they're
is
doing the
supposed
job.
to do, but some of them.
Yes, go
The
ahead.
honors algebra 2 is the second course in the honors college prep series. It's a very rigorous course, much more rigorous than the college level. It's challenging. It's designed for the students with exceptional math ability and leading ultimately to the study of calculus. So calculus is near and dear to my heart because I was the calculus teacher for many, many years. And as I try to explain to many, many parents, many students, calculus is really only 1 or 2 steps of calculus, maybe 3.
A lot of
And
that.
then it's all algebra 2. And it is applying every single solitary type of equation that you've ever crossed paths between algebra 1 and algebra 2. It is the love of my life. But not everybody has that same one. But it's the idea that you're now taking these things. So at this level for an honors, you're not going to be learning in isolation. You're going to be learning something and then having to bring back things from the past and bring back things from the past. And so it is an ongoing process and you get better and better and better at it.
Kids can start taking this in freshman year, right?
So
Freshman and.
So the difference between math with a lot of the other subjects is you take it when you have taken the sequence before that. So yes, I have many students from our accelerated math that take it in 9th grade.
Freshman year.
I have some 9th graders that are doubling up with the honors geometry and the honors algebra too. It's very, very difficult, but they do some do that. I have a lot of 10th graders that are in there, and then I'll have, sometimes I'll have some juniors that have kind of worked their way out. So literally in any of my math classes, I could easily have 3rd grade level.
Yes.
But that's the way the math works going through. So that one, again, you're preparing for advanced algebra. So it's still more algebra. There's a little bit of a crossover, but everything is much harder and then to a much greater degree. Quadratic functions are a big portion of it. Polynomial functions. You're going to hear functions a lot more than equations because they're incorporating it going through. Radicals and rational functions, exponential logarithmic, rational functions. Then there's matrices. Piecewise functions, I'm probably talking Greek to all of you guys. And then in the honors, again, when we're after the state testing and towards the end, they do a little unit on trigonometric functions and the unit circle just as a start before you get to calculus. And I'm sorry that not everybody has the same.
High school in my head.
It's the end all of everything you need. And that's why it's very important for the students to be successful at this, because if you don't have the success, you won't be able to do the higher levels because you're not going to have that foundation of how to solve it. It's like trying to take and try to make a cake and not knowing how to do your measurements. You need to know the basics. So these are the basics, but at an honors level of rigor.
And we've updated this document in 3 years or 2 years?
Say this again.
How long ago did we update this document?
This document was updated. Oh, this one right now was probably 6. If I looked, I think it was 2016 or 2018 was the
Oh,
last.
it's been that long.
We did update. I updated all of them when we had the 2016 standards. Those
Okay.
have not been done since then. I focused on middle school 2 years ago, elementary, most of elementary last year, and now I'm focusing more on high school.
Okay.
Right, so that is the two high schools. Before I get to the grade two, are there any questions with that?
Any questions for the high school?
The only thing I just want to comment, and again, I congratulate, I thought it was well done. My area is mathematics. Okay, so I I'm listening to everything you're saying, and I just love stuff like that. So I'm the other one who likes calculus.
There you go. I don't confess my love for it.
Thank you very much.
So the standards to the changes to the elementary level were, not that they were big changes, but they had more changes at the elementary level than they did at the high school level. The high school really only had, like I said, climate change was kind of the big, I think they wanted to add something in, even though we were doing that anyway. When it came to the elementary level, they are focusing big time though on having the teachers have more inquiry in the classes, about asking questions, collecting data, analyzing data. Again, very much application based, not drill and skill, at an appropriate level to what they're going through. They wanted to replace the term fluency with accuracy and efficiency, because fluency made it sound like you were just supposed to do it real fast, but it's not about how fast you are. It is about how accurate you are in a timely fashion. So that was really more play on words of just an emphasis. It really isn't a change of what they were doing, but I think kind of more of a focal point. The measurement and data was split into a couple of different things. In my elementary documents, our teachers, the far majority are using the workshop model, which is a way that you can really differentiate going through. You start out with a general lesson. You start with an anticipatory set to kind of pull them in. Then you have a general lesson that's not long because their attention span is much shorter going through. But then you have different stations where they're working and the students rotate as to when they can get with the teacher. Everybody gets seen by the teacher. Some need more time than others, but it really truly works well. And it's something we've really been focusing on at the elementary. And again, with the 2020 standards going back, it said that the climate change happens. The impact has been on a local or global level. In 2023, the idea of the math standards, and this is coming straight from the state, was to develop data supporting claims and then present evidence in order for action against climate change. So that's kind of the idea, it's just more intuitive thinking of it going through. And I can go through some examples.
However, it's about data science, they're teaching second graders about it now. Like
But
if you
keep
said
in mind, it's age appropriate, right? So like
it
if
is,
you're in
that's what I'm saying.
kindergarten
It's
class,
about data science now, so they're starting young.
kindergarten classes forever and a day, you walk into a room and they have the charts and it's the weather for the day and it's what could happen and it
What do you
kind of
think?
reminds you of my weather, right?
We keep good graph and we talk about, oh, look, these two are equal right now and look, which
It's-
one has more.
It's a visual, it's a picture, but it's mathematical and it's science and it's incorporated through it. And you can talk about the percent of chance of rain without them really knowing the details of what percent means, but is it likely that it's gonna rain today or not? Why? Because it's kind of sticky outside and it's humid outside.
Oh, yeah, it looks like it's gonna rain.
So it's really, education has really brought in application at a much deeper level. So I think it's good. I think the deeper level you go with the understanding, the longer term you have a retention, and retention is what we're looking for. So whether it be at the elementary level or all the way through, that big understanding is where they remember it, as opposed to just memorizing for a quick test and going on with it. So again, with the grade two, one of the things that the teacher wrote that did this, besides updating all the standards, really talked about the outline for each lesson with specifics to it, so that we've got an anticipatory set, possibly a pre-assessment for the unit going through, the mini lesson, the guided practice, the independent practice, and the rotations of how they work through it. Because again, a brand new teacher, while we would think has learned this when in their college classes, they may not, or it might not have been to the same degree. Each of the lessons, she's given a description, suggested amounts of time, which is important because how long do you spend on each one? Which resources that can be used, supplementary resources, and just how to deal with differentiation going through. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, but any questions?
Thank you, Ms.
Okay.
Gaskell. All here with Ms. Russ.
So.
All physics today, huh? No, we're writing.
So tonight I am going to be presenting two of our AP Physics curriculums, AP Physics 1 and AP Physics C.
I haven't asked Ms. Gaskell if she ever took that class.
I did. So AP Physics 1 is actually a course that is offered to juniors. for seniors if they are interested. But the way that, just so everybody knows, there are several levels of physics that are available to students that we really strongly correlate with mathematics due to the mathematical nature of physics itself. So there is applied physics, physics, honors physics, and then if students choose, they can take AP Physics 1. This course does follow the roadmap from College Board. And one of the reasons that we sought to revamp this document a little bit is twofold. One, we want it to be aligned with the 2020 standards for science, but also the College Board did not take away things from this curriculum. However, they added more information in the area of asking students to deal with fluids and fluid dynamics. So this is a very comprehensive course. It really does take what we are doing in honors, but then really moving it to that next level, especially mathematically. So some of the units are kinematics, force and dynamics, oscillations, electrostatics, current electricity. Our writer for this is Dr. Basu, who wrote both of these documents and is always she does a great job with this. And she, I always have to say to her, can you just maybe explain what some of this is, because it's just usually so great. So what would happen is at the end of this course, they can take the AP exam. It is open for seniors if they're interested after they took honors physics, if they got the physics bug and want to take physics 1, that is also an option for them.
So the qualification for AP Physics 1 is mostly mathematical?
Yes, and also, so in the program of studies we ask for a grade of 85 or better in honors
In
chemistry,
Okay, honors.
85 or better in honors algebra 2, and concurrent enrollment in honors pre-calculus. Our AP Physics C curriculum is really for the students who
Love calculus.
really love it. It is a really great class. I love to go in there and see
I can't
what
even
they're doing,
imagine.
because the students really like physics. So this is the one course where we do ask that they do have to be enrolled in AP Calc, AB or BC, due to the calculus-based nature of AP Physics.
So they have to be enrolled simultaneously, or they
Or
could have
they
done
could
it
have
before?
taken it already.
So simultaneously is fine.
Correct.
They're learning that.
Simultaneously
Okay.
is fine. So not every student is going to want to take AP Physics C. But those that do really tend to do very well and also have a passion for it. Again, we are following the AP curriculum. So you will find units like scalars and vectors, electrostatics, kinematics, again, oscillations, many of the same things we see in Physics 1, but just going in much deeper work with that. And you will see throughout the curriculum that there is the calculus based in there. So you could see magnetism with calculus, for example. One of the great things also about these documents is that built in is videos that our physics teachers have made in-house for students to be able to watch and then, set their mind to solving some of the problems. We do also, as resources for both of these classes, have a program called WebAssign, which will help basically giving some problems and giving them different variables that they could solve and really help give them that practice that they need. So again, Physics 1 would be open to juniors and seniors. Physics C is predominantly seniors because they need honors or AP.
But we do allow juniors that are an AP Calc AB to take it,
You can't,
Because of-
you have to have, taken,
some sort of physics.
you had to have taken some sort of physics.
Okay, okay. I have one more question.
Sure.
Who are the curriculum writers? Are they same for both?
Dr. Basu.
Oh, Dr. So you
and
did
she-
mention that.
Yep,
yeah.
and you could see all the formulas, she took
She's
painstaking.
great at both math and.
Oh.
Gotta be.
Yes, and if you really also look, I want to circle back a little bit. When we were talking about the roadmap idea versus how does it come into practice, you can see in both of these documents, there is a plethora of labs and activities and simulations using PhET and other physics websites that really brings that personal touch to it, way beyond what you would just see in AP classroom.
The AP Cal, so the AP Physics say,
Mhm.
how long have we offered it and do we offer multiple sections? Like, is it in demand?
So we've offered it for quite a while. It fluctuates. Because when they sit for the APC exam, and I want to make sure I explain this correctly, there's really two parts to it. There's electricity and magnetism. So that's how College Board does it. Some years we have, 13 students. Some years we have 6 students. I think because of,
The rigor.
it's very rigorous.
Yeah.
But I will also tell you, that all of our physics teachers, much like every science teacher we have at the high school, are extremely passionate about, their subject area, and they really work hard to make it accessible.
So interesting to hear. Any questions? Anybody else? It's so heartwarming to hear that we offer these rigorous classes and there have been sections year over year of these. And we've done well, hopefully, which we'll wait to hear next month with the AP.
Correct.
Yes, looking forward to that. Mr. Snyder, your chance now.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Ross.
I have 4 documents, so take one of each
Yes.
while we're doing it. So I will start. I have 1 elementary document and I have 3 high school documents to do. So we will start with the elementary school, which is our elementary general music for 3rd grade. At the elementary school, each student will receive general music in 3rd grade once a week. And we are committed through arts education in our elementary schools to providing a whole child education, educating the whole child. And the opportunities that students receive in the arts are very rich in opportunity and great learning experiences and exposure. The 3rd grade general music really builds off of skills that were learned in 1st and 2nd grade and will prepare students for general music in the upper elementary schools in 4th and 5th grade. 3rd grade in specific for general music will teach students skills that are very key when they enter band and chorus, which they have the opportunity to do in 4th grade the next year. So it's a beautiful thing when students enter in 4th grade already knowing the basics of rhythm, how to read basic music, and that is a lot what is covered here in 3rd grade. The course focuses on having vocal confidence in singing, rhythmic and meter development, melodic and harmonic expression, notation, and overall just appreciation for music through evaluation and critique. Some of the highlights and activities that students learn are they learn the basic time signatures and being able to recognize them in listening to music and also being able to feel music, feel the beat by listening. They learn about musical form, pitch, how to read music on the staff, and learning basic notes and how to read in treble clef. They learn about tempo, what is slow, what is fast, what is medium, and definitions regarding tempo of music. They are going to come out of this course being able to read basic rhythms, rests, and identify them when listening as well. And then a wide range of dynamics in music, soft, medium loud, medium soft, very loud, extremely loud. So they'll be able to know the symbols for those and again, be able to hear them in their listening of music. And they will perform in the class on both pitched and unpitched instruments. So it's a very comprehensive experience. And like I said, third grade is the last stop before band and chorus. When I was teaching band, it was always so nice, like I said, day one, when a student would come in and they open their book for the first time and they go, I remember that from last year. So our general music teachers do a great job and they really bridge the gap towards our performance ensembles.
Is this when they get the recorders?
Yeah, yeah.
Ah. A milestone in every family. When they come home with the recorders. I have no questions. This is a
Yeah.
great start.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to our, this was a collaborative effort by general music teachers from multiple grade levels collaborating on this. So they did a great job. Any other questions on
We can move on to high school.
general music? All right, so our first course for high school is Piano 1, which is a very popular course we're experiencing. Believe it or not, we have 3 sections of this year, and we could even run more if we needed to. We're limited by the number of keyboards in the piano lab, which I believe is 16, but this is a very popular course. And Piano 1 provides group instruction to students at the beginning level. Students learn to read music and develop just very basic technique on the keyboard. And they learn proper posture, hand positions, finger patterns, and exercise, and the basic fundamentals of music theory in this course to be able to play up to, by the end of the course, a more difficult level of repertoire to intermediate piano throughout the course of the year. The repertoire that they cover in class is very beginning classics, folk, jazz, a very variety of styles at the level, and the course does include 2 mini performances throughout the year for even our beginning students. So this course is open to students 9 through 12. It satisfies their arts requirement, and there is no prior musical training required to take this class. There's no prerequisite whatsoever. And we do have Piano 2 and even Piano 3 that's offered at the high school. Like I said, this is a very popular class. Now, when students take this class, are we looking at the end of this thing to be, for them to be able to play like Liberace? No, that's not the goal of the class. The goal of the class is to develop the skill of piano, which is a life skill. So many adults come to me and says, I wish I took piano when I was a child, just because it's a great thing to learn, and it's a great skill. So we may find the next prodigy coming out of this class, but that's not the
goal.
It's to expose students to piano, and then students that are very interested and want to go to that next level, we do have Piano 2 and Piano 3. So some of the highlights here, students can learn their scales on piano, beginning music theory, like I said, beginning up to intermediate piano repertoire. They will learn about musicality and being able, the art of practicing a piece. There's not just something where it's go home and do this 10, 15 times a night. There's an art for practicing that they learn in this course on how to practice properly, how to practice slowly, and then gradually increase the tempo to get to your performance speed. And they will learn about how to play musical and not just play something very straight and narrow, but be able to play with dynamics and expression in this course. And they are fully prepared to take the next level if they would like to do that in ninth through 12th grade students. So it is open to everyone, and like I said, very, very popular and very successful, of course.
It's a fun way for meeting, but it's not into it to meet the graduation requirements.
Yes.
It's an easy class and a fun class, and that's the reason it's so popular, I believe, amongst high
We do have a lot of seniors this year taking piano.
graduation requirements.
Which is okay, but I was able to listen to some of the performances last year, and they really do
They do.
learn a lot. So it's a great skill. Any questions on piano 1? All right. Moving on, another popular class, no pun intended on this one. This is our pop music history course at Monroe Township High School. This is also open to students 9 through 12, and it does satisfy the arts requirement. We are running for the first time 2 full sections this year of pop music history. So a lot of interest in this course. It really examines the historical significance of popular music in the United States from the late 19th century all the way up to today. Students will think about how to analyze music historically and really taking what was happening in history in the world at the time and how it influenced music through the years and through the different periods of this. So there's a lot of cross-curricular opportunities here, and the course does have the visual and performing arts standards, but also cross-curricular social studies standards as well in this class, as well as social and emotional learning. They listen to a variety of music, everything from ragtime, blues, jazz, country, folk, soul, rock, disco, hip hop, classical, and current music. So it covers a wide variety and just the influences of each. Throughout periods of time, every period of music, there was influences that students will now recognize today in the music they listen to. We'll also in this course talk about how listening to music has changed through the years from what we do today, back from when we had radio to now, how we listen, how easy it is and how accessible it is to music. So it's a very, very interesting class, a very fun class. The students really learn a lot in this course, and the students that are here, I feel, are just have an interest for the appreciation of music. Again, no prior musical training is necessary for this course whatsoever. Just a couple highlights here. Like I said, we talk about ragtime, jazz, and blues music and the styles of each. We listen to ragtime piano listen to jazz soloists, the great jazz legends. We learn what a 12-bar blues is. We learn style of it and form. We look at the post-World War II developments. Really, in this is how music was recorded, how it was manufactured, how it was produced. It's much different than it was today, but it was a period of time there. We look at American pop from 1959 to 1964 with distinct styles of music. The students get exposed to soul, and even television, how that influenced music. The American Bandstand, for those that are familiar, we cover that. The British invasion, Beatles, Rolling Stones, and then the post-British invasion, which is really where rock develops a distinct listening characteristic and style. We look at African influenced music. There's a lot of diversity in listening, and we talk about African instruments that were used in African dance and relate them to music that students are familiar with and listen to today, and really correlate there. And then the 1980s, Bon Jovi, Bruce Springsteen, and then the style and the unique sound of the 80s, same thing with the 90s, and all the way to today, and how we listen and appreciate music, and just the changes that have happened, and how technology has reinvented itself. So that's how we listen to music. So I really like this course. I have a great appreciation for this course, and highly recommend to students.
Yeah, we all want to take it right now.
Yeah. Yeah. This is like my calculus. It's the love of my life. Music is great. Actually, no, I lied. It's my next document. Strength and conditioning. Any questions about pop music history?
Not at all. Thank you.
Good.
Our final course is our Strength and Conditioning 1 course. We're going over to the phys ed field now. So our Strength and Conditioning 1 document is our introductory course for strength and conditioning that covers the essentials of movement and fitness. It is designed, one of the reasons we rewrote this document this year was this course was historically only offered to juniors and seniors. We are now offering this course to sophomores. There was a lot of great reason and rationale for that. Sophomores were really eager to take the course and have always asked throughout the years, can we take this course? And they'd always have to wait till junior year. With the advent of option 2, our alternate pathways, this was the time now because seniors have that option. So this was the time to open this up to sophomores. So now it's 10 through 12, which also means there might be a strength and conditioning 3 course coming down the road in a couple of years. But the course aims to build a strong foundation on personal fitness and performance training. It establishes proper mechanics for all fundamental human movements. So students learn a ton in this course about weight room etiquette, and really an education on all the equipment that's in the weight room there. Safety is first and foremost. So we spend the beginning of the year talking about how to use each piece of equipment properly and safely. Students are have an introduction to strength training overview, personal fitness, personal weight training, and they develop by the end an individual program design where they can go home and really take the skills that they learned in this course and develop a workout regimen that works, basically that works for them. Because all of us, they learn in this class that not everyone's going to have the same workout regimen at home. Mine will be totally different than others, but it's what works for you. Mine will be, for instance, I'll start with the bar with no weights on it and then gradually add a pack or 2 here or there, while others might start with that. So they will learn that in this course. The main goal, though, is how students can learn that they can enhance overall body strength and endurance by utilizing various training methods and diverse programming techniques here. So I want to give a shout out to Lee Volkman and Sean Field, who teach this course, who did a fantastic job writing this. And the sophomore classes, I will say, are completely full and very enthusiastic students about this. And like I said, we have strength and conditioning 2, and probably in a couple of years, this will lead with the sophomores to continue the strength and conditioning 3. So
that's a great advantage of having option 2.
Yes.
A lot of neighborhood gyms offer free gyms to the high schoolers over summer. So as soon as they get into freshmen, they're using the neighborhood gyms for free. So this is great that they can, start as early as sophomore year, because otherwise you're right, there used to be kids waiting till junior and junior year to do it.
Sure.
Any questions? Yes. go ahead.
How are the students graded?
So
Do you do like a workout regimen?
yes, they're assessed in each unit has a specific assessment. They are graded for their knowledge of this, but they're also graded on their personal goals that they do throughout each unit and their progress that they made. They have to do journals. They have to keep track of their workouts both in school and then sometimes even outside of school. So and this. To Ms. Board, this does lead into option 2 because one of the things there is if a student is doing option 2 as a senior, they have to record at home exactly their workout that they've done to get the 150-minute requirement. So option 2 students that take strength sort of have an advantage when they.
That's very competitive in this class. A son of mine took that, and there are competitions about who lifts and how many reps, and it's pretty intense in that classroom, from what I know.
Tell them I'll come spot them one day.
Yeah, there are. Any other questions? That was it, right, Mr.
Yeah.
Snyder? Thank you so much. Thank you. And we'll move on to Mr. Brandica for the emergency action plan. And I have to say, it's the first time I'm seeing it. I've been on this committee. This is my 3rd year, so excited to hear all about it.
Thank you. So yes, I'm going to talk about the Athletics Emergency Action Plan. So several organizations, including the NJSIA, National Athletic Training Association, and NFHS, the National Federation for High School Sports, they do encourage schools to establish an emergency action plan specific to athletics. As many of you guys know, the catastrophic injuries happen all the time. You've seen it in the NFL not too long ago. I believe a chain crew member, collapsed during the game. So it is very important for us to have an EAP in order to help us facilitate not only a prompt, but also an efficient way to deal with any kind of medical emergencies that may occur during practices, during games, or things of that nature. So the document that you see in front of you guys was created through our athletic trainers in collaboration with me, and I also met with our director of security. You'll look through it, and within the document, you're going to see specific things, about the location of where the AEDs are on campus, as well as where you can find oxygen, where to go for any type of lightning emergencies, specifics about how we handle spine injuries, head injuries, what to do in case of having to use an EpiPen if you have someone, experiencing an allergic reaction, as well as how to use an inhaler. And lastly, we also have in there what to do during, any kind of heat illnesses, as well as any kind of issues with potential cold, frostbite and things of that nature. So it is very specific. When I met with the athletic trainers to talk specifically about this, there was some specific concerns that we looked at, and within the last year, we were able to kind of work out the kinks for some of those concerns. And that's why the document is coming to you guys now. So some of the things we looked at specifically were we had AEDs available in different areas, but some of them were locked. So now we do have exterior units in the back of the high school, as well as down at the field house. So
They're not locked.
they are not locked, and that is on purpose to make sure that they can be accessed during any kind of event, and also to make sure that we satisfy requirements for Janet's law. That does require that we have accessible and unlocked AEDs accessible, for any kind of events that we have. We also had the inability to contact coaches during any kind of lightning issues. It was very hard for the athletic trainers to reach out to everyone at the same time. As you know, our campus has fields, within a large, mileage radius essentially. So it was very hard for them to contact everyone. We did include in the budget this year to get Periweather, which is the lightning system that we use. It's been very, very helpful for us this fall so far. It does send texts out to all the coaches that I have in the system, including some administrators. We're able to get specifics as to, when lightning is in the area, what to do to prepare for, leaving the field, or in the case that there is lightning, really close to us, there is an alarm that sets off down at the field house. And it also prompts any fans who may potentially be, on campus, to make sure that they find safety. In the emergency action plan, you'll also see some specific field pictures. It does specify where to go in case of lightning, where the closest AEDs are, and oxygen, and all those types of things. So making it very easy for coaches to know where to go, or anyone who's involved with athletics. And then lastly, we also had, they also had some concerns about how to go about kind of streamlining how to deal with heat illness or when temperatures go really, really low. So through the NJSIA, the athletic trainers use different systems to kind of measure, how hot it really is outside or how cold it really is. So if you guys look towards the end of this document, it does specify specific zones, when it's too hot, and if it is too hot, depending on the levels, what types of activities we're able to do. The Periweather system that we purchased not only does the lightning portion, but it also does the heat and cold portion, where it has a gauge that essentially checks those temperatures, and I'm able to put in what we call policies. And within there, let's just say if the heat gets above 95 degrees and the state says that you're only allowed to do X, Y, or Z, those policies have already been put into the system, and it automatically texts it to the coaches, and they know it's this temperature, you can only do 30 minutes of practice, or you can only do, an hour of practice, and you have to go inside, things of that
And
nature.
the
So it's very
coaches get that alert.
Yeah, so I
Correctly.
put in all of our high school coaches, all of our middle school coaches, our middle school athletic coordinator, Mr. Snyder's on there as well as the high school administrators. So everyone gets that information at the same time. You don't have to actually do anything. It's automatic. So from a communication standpoint, it's pretty easy to use. So that's essentially what this document is. I would basically be bringing it up on a year-to-year basis. It is recommended that EAPs be checked out or at least reevaluated every year, just in case things have changed. And again, the coaches will make sure the coaches are aware of the processes there as well.
So one quick question, you did mention that the security was, so at the administrative level, it's been reviewed by the facilities director, coaches, and who reviewed this before this is finalized and comes here?
So it starts with the athletic department.
Okay.
Then there are elements of it in terms of first aid response and
Right.
relocation suggestions that would be provided by the security piece, then I review it, and now it's here.
Okay, so the buildings, the facilities director has taken a look at it or not?
Yes.
Or is that not needed?
Mr. Tate, Mr. Tate,
Oh, well, Mr. Tate, I'm sorry, it was, our Director of Security.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it would equate, because they would know.
well, so these align with where we would do lockdowns and things. Most of these
Okay.
occur with common areas. You know, like if you're on the field and we have a half stand full of fans
Okay,
and there's a lightning alert, just as if we were gonna do some sort of
security.
action, these locations are similar to where we would end up going and either locking down or evacuating to, so that there is a overlap, and that's why Mr. Director of Security, Mr. Selva was brought in.
And is there a standard for this from the DOE? Is this our document or is it kind of laid out according to the DOE?
So it is our document because it's our facilities, and again, every school is gonna handle it differently.
But is
depending
there
on
like a
facilities.
template from the DOE?
But there's no specific template, but for example, the components of what's within it are things that are usually recommended. You know, having something for heat, having something for the cold, having something, for lightning, those are the basic things that, most documents are gonna have. And we've included some other things here and there that we thought were important
So
as well.
one way to look at this document, the things in this document were housed in different locations.
And now
And
it's
this-
one.
Other than the addition of the Perry-weather system this summer, we've always monitored heat and taken wet bulb temperatures and things. But now that's a decision-making process about who can practice, how long you can go out for, if you can go out at all. You can throw in the smoke, right? The Canadian smoke last year. They were all housed in different locations, because they belong to different elements, right? Sometimes it's security, sometimes it's the nurses, sometimes it's athletics. This is bringing it all together, so no matter who's involved, we have a common location. That's why it's a best practice. It's not, there's no state template or anything like that. The elements of that overwhelmingly have requirements, like there's concussion protocols. Those are things that we have a policy on concussions. Those are medical best practices, but again, we're putting them all in one location. So say we have some sort of sub-athletic trainer at some point. If there's ever a question about anything, this is Monroe specific, common location to manage any of the potential scenarios. And so we have to say, oh, we did it this way in one district, how do you do it here? Well, here's our kind of go-to.
And when we do, and I might be using the wrong acronym, when we go through those audits like QSAC or something,
Yep.
they look at things like this?
Nope, again, it's not a required document. The elements of that, so the concussion policy, they would review when they look at policies and things like that.
Not,
But again, this
wouldn't add
is
value to our
nope, this-
QSAC score.
we'll certainly show them in
Okay,
the
you
proper
will.
context and stuff, but again, this is taking elements that are spread out throughout the
And
district.
putting it in one place for
Right.
easy access and.
And it's-
Provided for the coaches or anyone within athletics that we could potentially be dealing with. I mean, remember, all our coaches are CPR certified, so they may be called to act during an emergency. We want to make sure that they have a clear, concise plan as to what to do and when to do it.
And one last question before I give it to the other board members. When our athletes are in another district and emergencies happen, it's all the hosting district's responsibility to handle it, right?
Yes.
We don't have any emergency protocol. Like our coaches will be there, right? But everything else is dependent on that district.
Yes, for the most part, the responsibility would fall on the home school, but at the same time, again, with our coaches, they are CPR certified, so they would be ready to act basically.
All our coaches are CPS.
All of our coaches are CPR certified, yes.
Go ahead.
So I just going back to, you said that these are all different components housed in different areas. So I guess my biggest question is the medical part of this, right? Our nurses were consulted in putting this together, or like, how did we arrive at these protocols?
Yeah, so the nurses were not consulted. When it comes to athletics, the medical personnel on staff are the athletic trainers. They're licensed and certified, healthcare professionals. And again, all of those things are happening essentially after school, and they're essentially the ones who are making those calls. So again, so it falls within athletics for that piece. And again, it's pretty consistent with what we would regularly do anyway with the training that they have, and then we'll be expected by coaching as well.
And then there's a reference in here also, I believe, with our district physician, right?
Yes.
When it comes to
Yes.
football games or district physicians on site for football games and things, so it's because it's the athletic side of things, that's the differentiation. The nurses are involved in let's call it the physical screening, free entry process to the athletics program. And then, any repercussions from an athletic injury, adaptations during the school day.
Yeah, I just want to obviously make sure that we are covered here, and what we're
Yeah.
listing out as expectations for, for our employees to follow, that we're not, doing anything that we shouldn't be.
Yeah, perfect.
I noticed there's 2 hospitals listed here. Is that for a reason, or because I know Central State's a little bit closer than these 2?
Those are just in conversations with the athletic trainers. Those seem to be the 2 places that our EMTs tend to go to most.
Okay.
Again, that is just, and the reason why that it's in there is just in case if we do have a new coach, let's just say they're not from around here and they're called upon, making a decision of sending someone to the hospital or those types of things. That's just to kind of give them an idea of what's in the area. That could always be changed. We can always add more or remove them. Regardless, if wherever the EMTs go is essentially where they're going to go, or if a parent chooses to go, for them to go somewhere, that's where they're going to go. That's just a resource there in case so that they understand what's in the vicinity.
So just to clarify, parent can choose to send their child to any hospital they want. Is
they
that
can.
just these
Always.
2? Okay.
Yeah, they always have that opportunity to do that. And again, and the person who would tell them no would be the EMTs if they're unable to go to those
Right.
hospitals. But that essentially, yes, the parents would dictate where they go. We don't tell them where they have to go.
Okay, thank you.
This is great. Thank you so much. Mr. Monroe, I'm going to start with a promise that next meeting onward, you will go first. Because I know you've got a big presentation next meeting, hopefully.
That's okay. Well, there's not much to update on, other than that, September is a reboot month for us.
The enrichment.
We are positioned to relaunch our enrichment services beginning in October. We are just about, we have begun selecting staff and making sure that they're aligned in the buildings. We're excited to expand into the elementary school with some 0-period programming this year. We have a new program at middle school through the social studies department. And we will continue to listen to our teachers, parents, and administrators and design programs with fidelity that align with our programs in an enrichment fashion. And then our goal would be to resume with some of our winter and spring programming as well. There is an October SAT administration here at the MTHS. We will not be running our SAT prep class prior to that. Timing just didn't work out. It's like literally in 2 weeks. I believe October 4th was the date. However, there are 3 more administrations at the Monroe Township High School this school year, and our plan would be to set up SAT prep on the front end of those, much like we did last summer.
6-week classes, 4-week classes?
I'm sorry?
Did we have 6-week?
We had 2-week classes last week, but we've had discussions with the instructors about some modifications that we would like to make. And then to kind of the way that the pacing of that class worked out, particularly the amount of time. They had a tough time going from 84 minutes to 60 minutes, which was something that we didn't really anticipate, which we should have. But the other thing with the advantage of the upcoming programs is that for the rest of the calendar school year, our Monroe Township High School students will have the ability to take the SAT in their home school, which is, level of comfort there, and it's good for the district. And it's good for our staff and to kind of have all hands on deck effort to try to really focus in on ways we can help our high school students now through enrichment. But we will continue to try to push down further into the elementary schools as well. In addition, we are working very closely this year, which is something new, with ECE to look for ways to layer some enrichment offerings into that program as well after care as well. So we're not just building out here at schools, we're also looking at ways to help some of our youngest learners get some new experiences in that program.
So quick question on the enrichment in elementary through 0 periods. Are we offering the same 0-period opportunities to all elementary school, or is it?
At all upper elementary schools. So,
But they're all,
yes,
so all
correct.
3 upper elementary schools are getting the same 0-period enrichment opportunity.
That's correct. So we sent out pre-qualification letters for that particular referencing our 0-period computer science program. The letters for that program went out last week. That is a small cohorted program, but that is not the only program we will be launching this year. We will do things, when it comes to the upper elementary schools, we don't have any intention of a singular pilot at an individual school. Any program that's rolled out to the upper elementary schools will be rolled out to all 3.
It's great.
That's not to say there won't be additional piloted programs taking place in other fashions, but with regards to the program referencing, that will happen with parity across the board.
And these programs are not year-round. They are for a certain amount of weeks and then they stop.
Correct. They're completely dictated by the program itself. So in the example of the history happens here. I believe that is a year-round or it extends multiple seasons, but there's a culminating event on a specific date. So we kind of work backwards from that. With the computer science and robotics programs, they vary from 6 to 8 weeks to 10 weeks. This year, specifically, we have identified some competitions and we're starting to work backwards from those dates. But like I said, the nature and the scope of the program, particularly those, are dictated by the curriculum systems that we look at. But one of the programs we're looking at in the culinary areas, we have full creative capacity for that. And when it comes to those types of things, particularly with the younger learners, we listen a lot to what the parents have to say about convenience, programmatic structure and things like that.
Culinary in elementary, or are we talking middle school and?
Elementary, yeah, so we opened up culinary enrichment to elementary students last year.
Zero period in?
No, that would be after school.
Oh, okay, after school and this, in this environment, right, in the high school?
Correct, yeah. Ideally, we would centralize everything here, just for purposes of facility management, equipment. However, with the little kids, it's challenging, little kids.
Transportation.
Yeah, things like that. Well, we don't offer transportation, for any of these programs.
But if it's after school, it's immediately after school?
No, we give them a little bit of a buffer. We tend to, obviously we can't please everyone. We definitely do not, we try to avoid conflicting our athletics and after school, types of, curricular programs that benefit the academic learning of the student. So we do give, some buffer. I believe the earliest we started last year was around 4. And we look at Applegate and kind of their schedule since they tend to be the latest.
Mr. Monroe, for parents listening, where can they find more information on what is available for what grade levels? Is it on the school websites or on our district website?
So we use it's our summer website. That kind of has just been, I know it's summer, but that houses it's a WordPress site, so it's easier to update. That houses all of our enrichment program offerings for the reason only that that's all we have right now. When we roll over to the new site, we will have a dedicated space.
Okay.
But all of these programs can be found either by going to summer.monroe, and there's a link on the homepage. But also if you click on the curriculum tab on our website, you'll see links into enrichment services there as well.
And some of this enrichment, the child has to qualify to get into, and some of them they can opt in to get into.
So our advanced enrichment offerings all take place during zero period, and we delineate it very specifically for that reason. Zero period is part of our school day, whether it be through band rehearsals or some of the other things that take place. Advanced art enrichment takes place in zero period. So we like to keep our advanced enrichment programs in zero period. We find that the students are a little bit more focused during that time, and it also helps us control the environment. The enrichment programs, which are also our fee-based programs, take place after school. And the reason for that is we like to create some separation between the curricular school day and the enrichment experience, which takes place after school. And even just that 45-minute to 1 hour separation gives it that feel. But it also gives our staff an opportunity to reset and things like that. But for all, and to this day, and up until the moment of this meeting, all advanced enrichment programs are, with the exception of Struts, because that's unique, infused into multiple areas of the school day, take place during zero period. And we do work with Mr. Snyder's staff to avoid conflicts with performing arts obligations as best as we can.
And you guys are already doing a great job with the social media, but my only ask would be for the after-school enrichment, if those programs have been launched, we should keep posting about them on our social media till our website is like,
Yeah,
we have
we haven't missed anything on those yet. So we haven't, the only enrichment information that has been distributed for this school year so far has been pre-qualifying letters through our advanced enrichment services, which includes art tagging and those things. Anything that will be taking place outside, we're trying to put enough distance in between. There's a lot going on in the district between community action or citizens advisory, the advanced enrichment, some of the other things. So we're trying to put a little bit of distance between start of the school year, all of those things, and the launching of our ancillary programs.
Anybody has any question? I know we're all out of time.
Yeah.
Next time we will start with you, I promise. Thank you, everybody, for coming in tonight, and that concludes our curriculum meeting for the month of September.
Thank you.